Hey, welcome to New Employee Orientation. This is from our benefits team, and we're going to discuss some of the benefits that you get as a technician. This is our agenda, and we're going to talk about the leave program, some service computation dates, your performance appraisal program, some incentives and awards, other benefits that you have, some USERRA rights, and how you get paid and using the ATAP system. Meet our team. We have Miss Michelle Reed, myself, Amber Weskachel, and Miss Hillary Neff. In your packet that you've received, there is a list of our contact information as well as the programs that we go over. Should you have any questions, you can always email the org box listed on there. So we have some different statuses in the federal employment agency that we have here. We have full-time Title 32 National Guard technicians. Those are dual status, so they're military uniform wearing. And then we also have Title 5 employees who could be also uniform wearers on the weekend side and civilians. And then we have indefinite employees as well. We also have temp techs on the Title 32 side as well as the Title 5 side, and those will have not to exceed dates. So if you're not sure which you are, your SF52 is going to have that listed at the top of there, what your status is, and if you are a temp tech, what your not to exceed date is. So the work schedule for everybody in the Wyoming Military Department is going to be a 5-4-9 compressed work schedule. We call this a Phoenix schedule. So 1 week will work 5 days, the next week will work 4 days, and on that Thursday of the 4 days is going to be an 8-hour day, and the rest of the days are going to be a 9-hour day. When you get to meet with your supervisor, you should be filling out a tag form 15E, which is your work schedule election. On there, you're going to select what hours you're coming in, when you're taking your lunch, if it's going to be a 30-minute lunch, an hour lunch, and then what time you're taking PT if you choose to. We are allowed 5 hours per week to do our PT. That's a tag policy that you'll read over with your supervisor as well. If you need to change your work schedule, that's totally fine. You can do that with your supervisor at any time. But if you need to change your work schedule outside of what the normal duty hours are, the core hours of 7 a.m. and 5 p.m., then you'll need to fill that out on an HRO Form 200 and get approval through your directorate or your group, and then send that to HRO for final approval. So talking about dress code, the Wyoming Tag Instruction 1700.02b is the dress and appearance in the Wyoming Military Department. So this is going to apply a lot towards Title 5s and what we can wear to work. As far as if you are on the Air Guard side or if you're on the Army Guard side, you're going to follow the correct AFI and then the Army regulation as to what you need to be wearing in uniform. And like I said, for the state and the federal employees, follow the tag instruction, but no matter what your job is going to be, make sure that your PPE is always worn if your job requires that. So we have some different types of leave that you can take as a technician, and we're going to go over these. Some of the main ones are going to be annual leave, sick leave, FMLA, some military leave. We have a bunch of other different kind of leave. So if you have any questions about leave, please feel free to email me, give us a call, and we can talk over those. For annual leave, you're going to request this through ATAPS. And again, ATAPS is something, if you're not familiar with, that your supervisor will go over with you. But this is where your time card is going to be. And this is where you input any leave request, any change in your time card whatsoever. Annual leave you can use for whatever it is that you want. If you want to go on vacation, if you want to have a staycation, if you have personal business or any kind of emergency, you're going to use that. The maximum carryover that you can have from one leave year to the next is 240 hours. If you come up on that time, it'll show on your LES if you are getting close to any use or lose time so that you can be able to use that before you lose that. The different accrual rates depend on how many years of service you have in. If right now this day that you're starting is 0, then you're going to have 0 to 3 years of service in, and you'll have 4 hours. Until you submit anything showing that you have prior federal service or prior time to get added those years, you're going to be in that initial 0 to 3 years. If you are growing and you've been here for 4 years, you're going to start accumulating those 6 hours. 15 years plus, you're going to have 8 hours. So the longer that you're here, the more hours you can accrue on your annual leave. So sick leave, this again is going to be requested through ATAPS. You can use this if you yourself are incapacitated, you can't perform your duties due to physical or mental illness or injury. Every single person in the military department gets 4 hours earned per pay period, no matter how long you have been an employee. There is an unlimited carryover for sick leave. And you want to make sure you follow your supervisor's protocol for sick leave. This means if you are going to be gone and you've been out for 3 or 4 days and your supervisor says, hey, I need you to get me a doctor's note, they are well within their rights to do that if you are out past 3 days. Now, if you have a doctor's appointment, your kids have a doctor's appointment, your spouse has something you need to take them to in advance, make sure that you get that sick leave put in, because you are allowed to use your sick leave to take your family to doctor's appointments and things like that. So the Family Medical Leave Act, also known as FMLA, is open to all federal employees. You have to be qualified, meaning 12 months of federal service, to be able to use FMLA. And they had recently changed this to update. So if you were a previous technician before and you were not sure now, any federal active duty time can count towards those 12 months of consecutive service for there. And you can use it for the birth or care of a newborn child. If you're adopting, you're fostering, if you have an immediate family member that has a serious health condition that you need to be taken care of, or your own serious health condition, then you can be eligible for this. And we can talk more about that if the time comes and you have questions. You get 12 administrative work weeks, but because we do work the Phoenix schedule, it just translates to 480 hours of full-time regular work for you as an employee. And the maximum calculated time is based on a 12-month rolling cycle. So if it was today, just add 364 days, and that's when your time is going to end for that. If you need to continue it, then you have to recertify yourself with medical documentation. Now, do note that the Family Medical Leave Act is all unpaid. You have to use your annual leave, your sick leave. If you exhaust those and you are like, I still need a paycheck, I cannot go without a paycheck because of my illness or taking care of family, then we can talk about the donated leave program. But both of those leaves need to be exhausted prior to that. And if you decide that you don't want to use those leave, then you can put KA, which is personal LWOP, in your time card. Now, paid parental leave is a form of FMLA that is in fact paid. And this is for you as the biological parent of the birth of a child, or if you're adopting or fostering a child, you can qualify for this. You just have to qualify for FMLA first. And this is only available to Title V and Title 32 employees. The mother and or father are eligible. If both parents are in the Wyoming Military Department and technicians, they can both qualify for this if they qualify for FMLA, and each get their own 480 hours of leave. And you can utilize this leave consecutively, sporadically, however it is that's convenient for you, and you work that out with your supervisor. Now, you will just have to notify HRO when you're aware of the pregnancy or the birth of a child. The sooner the better for that. Now, I understand adoption and foster care can be something that's rather quick. So those are some different circumstances where paperwork might need to be pushed a little bit sooner. But the quicker you get that information to me, the quicker we can approve you, and the quicker we can get you that paid parental leave, so you don't have to worry when you're actually using that leave. The big thing to note with this is the 480 hours of leave. No matter if you use all of it or not, once you conclude the use of the leave, you have to pay back the agency in regular worked hours, 480 of those. So you are not in a debt. And again, that's something that we can talk a little bit more about if and when that comes about. So military leave, this was just recently changed this month, and we have 160 hours of military leave that you'll accrue every 1 October. This is for all permanent employees. The temporary technicians are available to get this if their appointment is longer than 365 days. So the 366th day, that 160 hours will be loaded onto their LES. And do note that you do have this as a permanent employee or this temp tech. If you've reached that 366th day, it will not show on your LES until you use it. So if you decided that this next drill period coming up, you want to use 5 hours of it and you had not used it before, once that LES comes out out next time, you'll see that deduction of 5 hours being used, and it will show you how much military leave you have left. So this is something that you can use to double dip while performing a military duty. Now, this does have a maximum carryover per year. It was previously 240 hours with the 120 hours accrued. So I'm sure that that's going to be extended a little bit more to equal the double for the 160 hours with that. So if you have any questions, do let me know.
Part of joining our agency, that you have a lot of service computation dates, and those dates matter, some to you drastically and some more for our agency, but we are going to kind of walk through what those dates look like and what those dates mean for you. So your leave service comp date includes all federal service time. So you can use previous temp time, you can use previous permanent time, or you can use prior Title X military time if your military orders or DD-214s get submitted to us here at HR. What this date does for you is it adjusts your leave. So earlier we talked about being in that 0 to 3 years of service, you get 4 hours of annual leave, or 3 to 15, you get 6. If you have prior time, again, prior federal service time or prior Title X time, and you can get that documentation to us here at HR, we can adjust your leave service comp date so you can start accruing more annual leave faster. So what that looks like is from your hire date right now, we're saying that's when you start accruing leave. However, if you can provide us enough documentation to show that you have 3 to 5 years of service, we can change your service comp date. So now instead of just accruing 4, you can be accruing 6 hours of leave. There are some exceptions to this. Military time that resulted in an active duty retirement doesn't count. However, if you have time on deployments during that active duty time, that can count for you. So if you have any questions about that, please just reach out to HR. We're more than happy to work that for you and tell you what orders work and what orders don't work. But if you don't reach out to us, your leave date cannot be changed. So gather that documentation, get it to HR, and we will happily change those dates. Your retirement service comp date affects when you can retire. So this includes time in a permanent federal position that can count towards that retirement date, but it also will include prior Title X military time. However, that time has to be bought back through a military deposit. So once your deposit is complete, that time can be added to your retirement date. So you do have to have 5 years vested in the agency or in the federal government before you can add that time that you buy back. But once you have that vesting, then you can add any of that prior time and it adds on to your retirement date. Any day in LWOP does count against your retirement date. So if you're using military LWOP, otherwise coded as KG in ATAPS, you can buy that time back. So now that you're part of the agency, if you go into a KG status and you restore as a technician, you can buy that time back to count towards your retirement as well. A few other service comp dates we have here are civilian and TSP. Civilian matters more for us as the agency because we like to recognize your service. So this will include all your civilian service, temporary time and permanent time. So if you were with the agency before and are returning, that prior time does count. Really, we use this date just to determine when we give service awards. The tag recognizes our members in increments of 5 years, so 5, 10, 15-year service awards, and then we have just award ceremonies to recognize that. The other service comp date here is for TSP. This is separate from your military TSP. So now as a federal employee, you will have a federal TSP. You can find that, there's a drop down essentially that will differentiate between the two. For your TSP time to count, you have to, or for your TSP time to be considered vested, you have to be with the agency for 3 years. So at that point, you get to keep any of what the agency has matched in your TSP. If you leave the agency before those 3 years, any of the agency's contributions will be taken away from your account. If you are currently a temp technician, you are not putting into your TSP. However, your temp time can count if you become a permanent employee. So say you're a temp for 2 years, you become a permanent employee, those 2 years do count as part of that 3-year vesting. So you would have to stay with the agency 1 more year, and then all of the agency contributions will be what you can keep. You can see that better here on this slide. This is where it's showing you contributions. So when you join with us, again, as a permanent or an in-def, unfortunately temps, you don't have this perk. The agency is automatically going to take 5% out of your paycheck and put it into TSP. So over here on this left side, you're seeing contributions. Assuming you keep that the same, you are contributing 5%. Then we look in those middle two columns, the agency is always going to contribute 1%, even if you don't contribute, but then they'll give you that other 4% to come at a 5% matching from the agency, which means your total contribution is 10%. So it's those middle two columns that will disappear for you. You will not get that matching portion if you leave the agency before you are fully vested. Again, you can kind of look through that, whereas if you put in 1%, the agency is automatically going to give you 1%. The total contribution is 3%. The one that gets a little hokey there is 4%. If you put in 4, the agency is automatic 1, but then they give you a 3.5 for a total of 8.5%. So really it does benefit you to go the full 5, as they will match the full 5. To note though, if you go over 5%, so you contribute 10, the agency will not ever contribute more than 5% unless TSP changes their regulations. But for now, you can contribute over 5, but the agency will only match at 5. So your end contribution there will just be whatever yours is plus that 5%.
So performance plans, and you heard a little bit of this from Angela Massman. She goes over the performance plans and everything. I am a secondary for her, and what we really go over here in the benefits section is the awards portion. But to make sure that your performance plan gets in and everything is good to go, you want to ensure that that is great so you can get your award, that I'm going to talk to you as soon as I go over a little bit more in depth the performance plan and how it works. So your performance plan is going to be different elements that are written. They're going to be the standards based on your job description, and it's going to set expectations for your performance. And this is something that you're going to do with your supervisor. The both of you are going to get together, write it, you're going to agree on it, and then you're going to approve and acknowledge that. And this initial one should be initiated by your supervisor because you are a brand new employee, but the 6-month mid appraisal and then every year appraisal after that could be initiated by you or your supervisor. The timeline for these are always going to be 30 days, written 30 days within you being a new employee and 30 days after the new rating cycle. It's going to be 30 days to complete the plan, 30 days to write a new plan. 30 is the key number when you're talking about your performance appraisals and your performance plan. The SMART goal is what you're going to want to follow when you're writing these goals, and this goes in line with the Wyoming Military Department strategic plan. So the progress review is also called your mid-performance cycle. It's going to be you as the employee having a self-assessment, and you take care of that in MyBiz. And then your supervisor is going to go into MyBiz and also give you a mid-performance cycle. And this is just to review how you've done over the previous 6 months. If you need to make any changes, make any updates, if you're really crushing it and blowing out of the water, you can add a few more bullets. If you're like, whoa, this was a little too much these last 6 months and we might need to back off on this or adjust this so that I can actually do my job accordingly, then do it at that time and be completely honest with your supervisor, and you both will move forward and sign that mid appraisal. Again, just keep along with those SMART goals in that format. Lastly, the appraisal rating, you are going to do this at your year mark. Now, understand that if you are outside of what the normal appraisal cycle is, which is going to be that March-April time frame, say you're hired in the summertime and you have your 1 year of probation and it comes back around and you are still not in the rating cycle, that's completely fine. The appraisal rating will be closed out, everything will be good. You'll have that 12-month rating. You want that initial 12 months. The minimum time for supervision, however, is going to be 90 days to receive an official rating. So once you get past those first 12 months of that, you can get your appraisal rating put back in April or March time frame. And no, it might not be 12 months, but you're back on that cycle, and that's completely fine because you've had that 90 days of supervision. With your appraisal rating, it needs to be completed no longer than 30 days after that rating cycle has ended. Now, if you are on a deployment or in an AUS status, this does not eliminate the requirement for an appraisal rating. It either needs to be completed before you leave on deployment, before you AUS, or it might be while you are in an AUS status. Your employer cannot rate you on anything less than a 3 if you are deployed or in an AUS status. Now, if you've previously received a rating, say you got a 4.8 rating the previous year, and this year you happen to be on a 3-month deployment or a 3-month AUS status, and your appraisal is due, your supervisor can either give you all 3s or they can give you the 4.8 rating that you got previously, which is really helpful when it comes to your awards, which I'm going to talk to you about in a few minutes. So we have some different rating levels on here, and we talk about the appraisal rating. So the rating page is going to depict what rating level you got. If you got a 1, a 3, or a 5. So out of these, if you are rated a 5, you are outstanding. Your average score is going to be 4.3 or higher, and that is in the total part of it. If you got a 3 on something, that means that you're fully successful in whatever that is. If your average score of all of your bullets are less than 4.3, then you are fully successful, and that's the average score for your appraisal rating. Now, a level 1 is unacceptable. In any critical element, if you are rated a 1, that automatically gives you a 1, and that is unacceptable on your appraisal rating, period. This does require HR involvement, and you will be put on a performance improvement plan to just kind of see what's happening, what's going on with this person and their job, and how can we make this better. So incentives and award types. Everybody loves incentives. Everybody loves awards. The thing with this is you can get them as a time off award. You can get a cash award. You can receive an excellence in action award. We have our federal years of service and superior performance. Now, all these are based on the CNGBI 1400.25 volume 451. So who's eligible for these awards? Pretty much anybody. Your full-time permanent employee, your part-time permanent employee, your in-depth employee, and temp techs are eligible for some of the awards that we're going to talk about. So a time off award is always something that's available. We can always give time off, and this can be performance-based or this could be on the spot. So I already told you who's eligible for this: perms, in-defs, and temp techs even. So this is a non-monetary means for recognizing superior accomplishments. The amount on here, the minimum time off that you can give is 9 hours. That's because we work a 9 or an 8-hour workday, but the max is 40 hours per award. Now, per leave year, you cannot be granted more than 80 hours in that time frame. The use of this award, you have to use it within 1 year of accruing it, and it will show on your LES if you are coming up on your award expiring. You also cannot transfer this, but you definitely can use this to perform military duty and double dip. So this is submitted through your supervisor on an NGB Form 32, and the reason as to why you have this is this going to be a performance rating award or if this is going to be an on-the-spot award, and the justification on there. So cash awards are amazing, right? But they can be tricky because the federal government dictates whether we have money or not. So some years this may be applicable and some years it may not be applicable. The supervisor is going to initiate this nomination, and it's just like the time off awards. It's going to be on that NGB Form 32, and it's going to be whether it is a performance-based or if it's going to be on the spot. Now, with these awards, cash and time off, there are scales that your supervisor must follow. It's not a free-for-all on how much money or time off someone thinks they can give someone. The scale must be followed. So a quality step increase, a QSI, these things are only available to GS employees, and they are only available on ratings based. You must be a permanent or an in-depth employee. A temporary technician cannot be eligible for this. A QSI is when you receive all 5s on your appraisals and you are considered a role model on your rating. You must have served 12 months in the same job and grade level to be eligible for this. And per our Wyoming TPR 451, you are only allowed to receive a QSI once every 3 years. Excellence in action, also known as on the spot, which you've heard me talk about. This is going above and beyond the call of duty. This is doing outside of what your normal job duties are. When I get an NGB 32 with a reasoning as to why the person deserves this, it shouldn't be anything about they're doing their job well, they're following the elements of their job. This needs to be something that you are doing that goes above and beyond, and it will be noted on here whether it would be cash or time off, dependent if cash is available. And again, this also has a scale that's a little bit different than the performance rated one, but anybody can nominate anybody for an on-the-spot award.
Moving into benefits, your hub for benefits is going to be GRB. In that packet that we gave you, there is a pamphlet in there that kind of gives you the link and then walks you through what the initial screen looks like. But GRB, as you can see up here in these little circles, excuse me, in these little circles is what are the main points that GRB hosts? What does their platform do? The main ones you will probably be referring to are the health insurance, life insurance if you want to change it, dental and vision. However, dental and vision is a third party. And so once you click on that little bubble, it will actually direct you to their website, the benefits site. So if you forget where you're going, GRB is just a good hub for you to come to in order to get yourself to the next step. You can also find the Flex Spending Account website here, run your own retirement estimates here, as well as change your thrift savings plan and make allotments in your TSP. In an email you should have received from someone at HR, you had a couple attachments that discuss your insurance benefits. Two of those attachments kind of look like these here. They walk you through the premiums. So this does not tell you what is covered in your insurance. This does not tell you all the special things that it will go into. What this simply shows is the providers that you can choose and how much it would cost you as the employee to pay that on your bi-monthly payroll deduction. So these two up here are for health benefits and then as well as dental and vision. Once you decide the insurance that you want to choose, you will make those elections in GRB. So again, head to that hub. You can click FEHB wherever you are. The dental and vision will direct you to benefits, but you have 60 days to enroll in all insurances or change your insurance coverage. A qualifying life event could allow you to change your insurance at a later time. But as a new employee, you have 60 days from the time that you were hired. So please keep that in mind. That is a hard deadline. After that, you would either have to have a qualifying life event or depending on when you were hired, if it's close to open enrollment, which is in November and December, then you may be able to luckily enroll then. This is an example slide of what GRB looks like when you are creating an FEHB or a health insurance transaction. So if you notice here, we have highlighted the top part kind of smaller is the view FEHB plans and premiums. This is the page where you can go way further into detail about what the insurance is covering. So it will go more into depth about what exactly they cover as well as how much it will cost. If you have specific needs for your family, it may be worth calling these providers to see if what you need is covered by their plan. The second highlight here with the arrow pointed to it is what you need to do to create your form that is going to start your FEHB process. So when you click that button that says submit an FEHB transaction, GRB is going to ask you a lot of questions, and once you answer those questions, it creates this SF2809, which is the form needed to enroll in FEHB. Once you do that, it's right below that highlighted box. There's this little transaction box. It will say that you have this transaction and it is pending. Any transaction you do in GRB will not start until the beginning of a pay period. So if you were to go enroll in health insurance today, it will not start until the beginning of the next pay period. So that could potentially be almost 2 weeks away. GRB will not start till the beginning of a pay period. So keep that in mind if you're currently on insurance and you're wanting to switch. I would not stop your old insurance until GRB insurance picks up. That way you don't lose coverage. One thing to note, you may not be the primary holder of TRICARE Reserved Select. Primary sponsor, primary holder, whatever you want to call it, you cannot be that person. So if your spouse has it and you are on your spouse's insurance, that is okay. You cannot be the primary sponsor. Please know that. If TRICARE were to audit that, that would be money you have to pay them back. So because you are eligible to enroll in FEHB, you cannot be primary sponsor of TRICARE Reserve Select. One thing to note, if you are a temporary technician under 90 days, you cannot enroll in health insurance through the agency, which means you could still keep your TRICARE. Again, temp technicians only under 90 days. If you are eligible for an FEHB through our agency, then you can also be eligible for a Flex Spending Account or an FSA. FSA is another third party, so if this is something you're interested in enrolling in, you will have to go through the FSA website and you will have to contact them with any questions, concerns. Basically, this is just a Flex Spending Account where you can put your own money, it's pre-tax contribution, and you can save that for health spending or health expenses you may have later down the road. The biggest one we see here is people say like, oh, my kid has to get braces in 10 months, so I'm going to put away money now so that $10,000 braces bill doesn't hurt so bad later. This can be used for a lot of things. It can be used for like prescription meds. It can be used for glasses. So if you're a glasses contacts wearer, it can be used for chiropractic visits. There is another page in your pamphlet that kind of goes over more into detail about what this covers and how to enroll, but that is an option to you if you qualify for FEHB. Federal government life insurance, also something you are automatically enrolled in. We call that FEGLI here, and you are automatically enrolled in basic when you join. Again, this only goes for in-defs or permanent employees. Temp techs do not qualify for FEGLI. Basic life insurance coverage includes your annual salary, rounded up 1,000, and then you add 2,000. So if you're making $72,500 a year, you round it up to 73, add 2,000, you're covered at $75,000. This is automatically enrolled unless you waive coverage or change coverage. Again, that falls into that 60-day window. There are other options here. A is just $10,000. B, you can start adding multipliers for yourself. And C allows you to add multipliers for your spouse and your children. There's a page in your pamphlet that goes over this as well. So feel free to look at that. Contact HR if you have any questions. TSP, again, allowed only for in-def and permanent employees. Temp techs don't have access to this. This is one of the few things you can make changes to whenever you want. So as we stated before, 5% of your paycheck is automatically going to be put into TSP. Because it is automatically done, our portion, or like the agency portion and your portion, get put into a traditional contribution account. If you want to change that, you need to go into GRB and change it, but you can only change where your portion goes. So if you want to move your 5% to a Roth contribution account, you can, but the agency's contribution is always going to be in traditional. In GRB, you are only deciding where you're putting the funds, traditional or Roth. If you want to decide where you're actually allocating those funds, as in like G Fund, L Fund, S Fund, you will need to do that through the TSP website. Any changes to TSP can happen at any time during the year. As I said earlier, there are some qualifying life events that would allow you to enroll in insurance if these things happened. So if you get married, have a child, your spouse dies or a child dies, you get divorced, or you lose or gain TRICARE, those are qualifying life events that would allow you to enroll in insurance. So if you miss your 60-day window, but lucky for you, you're getting married next month, that would be something that would allow you to enroll. We also have open season that happens once a year, typically in November. Health, vision, dental insurances, those can all be changed, but life insurance does not have a frequent open season. So if you want to increase life insurance, 60-day window. Workers' comp, what does that mean to you? So as an employee, you have rights to be compensated if you're injured at work. We ask that if you have an accident at work, even if you are not hurt, report it up to your supervisor. The reason for that is once you complete these forms through workers' comp, it goes two places. One, it hits our safety office so that they can look into potential risks, but it also comes to HRO. So if you do want to go through with the claim process, we can get you the correct paperwork you need in order to successfully do that. So as an employee, if you do get injured, we ask the first thing you do is report it to your supervisor. At that point, your supervisor is going to reach out to HR and we will give them information. You, as the injured employee, are actually the first person who will get the link, and you have to complete your portion of the paperwork. After that, you send that on to your supervisor, and then your supervisor can complete their part, and that's when it comes back to HR. Now, we understand that sometimes an injury is an emergency and not a we can do paperwork first. So if that is the case, and you are being rushed to the hospital, going by ambulance, someone's driving you quickly, you don't have time to think through this paperwork process, please just try to let your provider know that this could be a workers' comp case, and then have someone contact HR as soon as possible. A lot of this does rely on your supervisor. However, there are some steps as the injured employee that you will need to complete. Moving into you, Sarah, you have rights as an employee that will save your job for 5 years or less of cumulative service while you have to go on uniformed orders. So if you get placed in orders for any reason, there are types of orders that are exempt or not exempt under USERRA, meaning some of them do count against your 5-year clock and some of them do not. You can contact us at HR, we can help figure that out for you, but you have 5 years of protected, your job is protected for those years that do count against your USERRA. In order to get some of those benefits, you have to go into what we call an absent uniformed service or an AUS status. When you're in an AUS status, there are some perks to you as the employee. We discuss your health insurance and life insurance and decide what you want to do with that while you may be in a non-pay status. There's that option, as we discussed earlier, of buying back your time towards your retirement so that your technician career is whole. And while AUS, you are still able to use leave. So when you use leave, essentially that can be a double dipping type system for you where you can get paid on the technician side while you're also getting paid for orders. Some types of leave are not available for you to use while you're in an AUS status. It is order dependent. But again, if you're getting put on orders, we ask that you contact HR. That way we can walk you through that and let you know what you are allowed to do or what you aren't allowed to do. It varies by order type. It also varies by like contingencies versus non-contingency. If you're ever going to use KG and you're not in an AUS status, you cannot buy that time back. So just know, if you want your entire technician career to be whole and you want to be able to make a military deposit, you will need to be in an AUS status if you are putting KG in your time card. On the flip of that is the return to duty. So if we put you in an out status, we're going to have to return you to get you back into a paid technician status. Again, that is a setup meeting through HR. So once you are coming off your orders, contact HR, let us know, and we will go through all the perks, benefits, things that can get you back into that technician status.
So how do I get paid? Everybody wants to get paid, right? We need to figure that out. So different paydays, Phoenix Fridays and holidays, we want to make sure that those are all in and correct on our ATAP's time card system. Now there is one for air paid employees and there is one for Army paid employees. Your supervisor will send you that link so you can get set up in that. You'll want to figure out who your time card keeper is, which generally should be your supervisor, but it's important to know because they're the ones approving all your time off and they're the ones approving your time card, so you can essentially get paid from finance. And then when is your time card due? Because they have a time that they have to submit that. Your direct deposits and W-4 forms all need to be filled out and sent to finance. That is something that you should have done with the onboarding team prior to being here at New Employee Orientation. But if you haven't, you can get with them, talk with them about it. And if you need to talk to finance, the Army finance is here upstairs, and then the air finance is across over in building 16 at the air wing. If finance doesn't receive both your direct deposit and your W-4 form, you will not get paid. Now, how you can check your paycheck is through the MyPay website. Those of you that are dual status military, your MyPay website is going to be the exact same, just like the TSP that we talked about. It's going to have that drop down. Your MyPay is also going to have that drop down, so you'll select the appropriate work area for that, and you'll be able to check that out. So thank you so much for attending New Employee Orientation today. We do hope that this was very helpful. Again, if you have any questions at all, you do have a sheet that says every single benefits member and what our contact information is there, who does what. And again, if you're not sure, you can message the org box or just contact us directly and we'll get you to who you need. We hope you have a great day. And again, thanks for meeting with us.